want something, you can make it happen.
Let me tell you about Xtro from 1982. You guys, this movie is absolutely bananas in the best possible way. So picture this. A regular dad just vanishes into thin air one day, leaving his family totally confused. Then 3 years later, he shows up again, but something is seriously off about him. The special effects in this movie are mind-blowing, especially this crazy scene where someone gives birth to a full-grown person. I know it sounds completely wild. The alien stuff they created looks super creepy, and they did it all without computers. Every time I watch it, I notice something new and bizarre. It is like someone took a regular family drama and mixed it with your weirdest nightmare.
Right on my studs and cooled out.
I am Pluthar, here to save you.
You're gonna love hearing about Terrorvision from 1986. This movie is exactly what would happen if the 1980s threw up all over your television set. And I mean that as a total compliment. This family gets this huge satellite dish installed in their backyard. But instead of getting more channels, they end up receiving this hungry alien monster through their TV. The whole movie looks like a punk rock album cover came to life. There is neon everywhere. The furniture is completely ridiculous, and the monster looks like something you would see in a funhouse mirror after eating too much candy. The best part is how they made the creature actually look gross and funny at the same time. Every single room in this movie is decorated like your weird aunt's house from 1986.
Menace to society.
You'd be paranoid too if you had it.
Out of all its victims.
It gives no warning.
Let me introduce you to Split Second from 1989. Imagine Blade Runner had a baby with a monster movie. That is basically what we have got here. Rutger Hauer plays this cop in a London that is totally flooded because of climate change. The whole city is dark and wet and super creepy. He is hunting down this really scary monster that is way more than just your average bad guy. The whole movie feels like you are walking through a dark alley at midnight during a rainstorm. They filmed everything to look super moody and mysterious, and Rutger Hauer is just so cool in this role. It is like they took every awesome 1980s sci-fi idea and threw it into a blender. Hey, if you are loving these weird and wonderful movies, smash that like button and tell me in the comments, what is the strangest movie you have ever accidentally discovered? I bet you all have some crazy stories to share. Now check this out.
A creature that combines the technology of a computer.
Hardware from 1989. This movie is like a heavy metal music video that turned into your worst nightmare, and I totally mean that as a compliment. The story follows this guy who finds a broken robot head in the desert and gives it to his girlfriend as a present. Worst gift ever. Because this thing rebuilds itself and turns their apartment into a total death trap. The whole movie glows with this amazing red light that makes everything look super creepy. And the music? Pure awesome. They got bands like Ministry and Public Image Limited on the soundtrack. The robot effects still look incredible today, and they did it all with actual props and mechanics.
We landed on this.
Let me tell you about Creature from 1985, which some of you might know as Titan Find. This movie is basically what you would get if you made Alien on a budget, but do not let that scare you away, because it is super fun. The story follows these scientists who find this ancient alien laboratory on Titan, one of Saturn's moons. The creature looks like something your talented friend made in their garage, but that honestly makes it even cooler. And you have got to see Klaus Kinski in this. He plays this super sketchy scientist and just goes completely off the rails with his performance. The whole thing feels like that weird dream you have after eating too much pizza and watching sci-fi movies all night. The moon-base sets are exactly what you would expect from the 1980s, and I am here for it.
Einer Fehler unterlaufen.
Gratuliere.
You are going to flip when you hear about the Vindicator from 1986. Imagine if RoboCop was having a really bad day. That is kind of what we have got here. This scientist named Carl gets into this terrible accident, and instead of letting him rest in peace, they turn him into this cybernetic superhuman. But here is the catch. While his brain is still totally human and emotional, his new robot body is programmed to go into full destruction mode whenever he gets upset. The costume was actually made by Stan Winston's team. You know, the people who did Terminator? Every time he tries to hug his wife, there is this chance he might accidentally crush her. It is like the ultimate bad hair day, but with devastating consequences. Lifeforce from 1985 is absolutely bonkers, and I mean that in the best possible way. Picture this: space vampires. But not just any space vampires. Naked space vampires terrorizing London. And guess what? Patrick Stewart is in this. The special effects team went all out on this one. They basically took every crazy idea they could think of and said, yes, let us do that. The movie starts on a space mission to Halley's Comet, where they find this weird alien spaceship, and it just gets wilder from there. The music sounds like an entire orchestra drank 10 energy drinks and decided to perform. Every time you think the movie cannot get any crazier, it proves you wrong. It is like someone took a Hammer horror film and launched it into space. Hey horror fans, if you are loving these deep cuts from the 1980s, slam that like button. And here is a question for you. What is the craziest movie premise you have ever heard that actually turned out to be awesome? Drop your answers in the comments below. Time for Strange Invaders from 1983. This movie is like if someone took E.T. and said, what if instead of being cute and friendly, the aliens were totally creepy? It is set in this small town that looks perfect on the surface, but something is seriously wrong. The aliens disguise themselves as normal people from the 1950s, but when they reveal their true forms, oh boy, the special effects team went crazy with melting faces and weird transformations. It has got this amazing retro sci-fi feel mixed with 1980s horror effects. Think Body Snatchers meets American Graffiti, but with way more exploding heads. The best part is how they play with this whole 1950s nostalgia thing while making it super unsettling.
Terror surrounds you.
The Deadly Spawn from 1983 is exactly the kind of movie that would have gotten me in trouble for watching it as a kid. This thing starts in the basement of a house where this meteor crash lands and unleashes these aliens that look like angry tadpoles with way too many teeth. The creature effects are pure nightmare fuel, all rubber and slime and practical effects glory. The best part is that they made this movie for basically no money, but the monsters look incredible. It is like someone took every kid's fear of what lives in the basement and turned it into a real monster. The whole thing feels like a love letter to drive-in monster movies, but with extra gore and some seriously creative kills. Watch out for the scene with the biology students. It is wild.
The universe. Or with...
It's out of control. You've got to turn it off.
From Beyond, made in 1986, is what happens when science goes completely off the rails. These scientists developed this machine called a resonator that lets you see beyond normal reality. Surprise, surprise, there are things out there that we probably should not be looking at. The effects team went absolutely crazy with this one. You have got people's heads transforming, weird creatures coming through walls, and so much glowing purple light everywhere. Jeffrey Combs plays this scientist who gets way too obsessed with the machine, and things just get messier from there. The whole movie feels like the weirdest acid trip ever, but with way more tentacles and body horror. They basically took every weird idea they could think of and cranked it up to 11. Time for another audience check-in. If you are still with me, give this video a thumbs up and tell me, which of these monsters would you least want to meet in a dark alley? My vote goes to those teeth monsters from Deadly Spawn.
We're talking Ghost Town!
Who you see out because the comet is coming into...
Let me tell you about Night of the Comet from 1984. This movie is like The Breakfast Club meets The Walking Dead, and it is so much fun. Earth passes through this comet's tail, and almost everyone turns to red dust, except for a few teenagers who were inside shopping malls or metal containers. Our heroes are these two Valley Girl sisters who suddenly have to deal with the end of the world, zombies, and evil scientists. The whole movie has this amazing neon pink and orange color scheme, and the 80s mall aesthetics are just perfect. They fight zombies while trying on clothes and making jokes about dating. It is like someone said, what if we made a post-apocalyptic movie but made it totally radical? The soundtrack is packed with awesome 80s tunes too.
Aaron Moran, trapped in a living maze of terror to scare you to death.
The Galaxy of Terror from 1981 is exactly what happens when you take every space horror idea and throw them into a blender. This movie is famous for being produced by Roger Corman, and it shows in the best possible way. The story follows this space crew investigating a mysterious planet. But what makes it wild is that the planet creates monsters from their worst fears. You have got this amazing cast including Robert Englund before he became Freddy Krueger, and some of the wildest practical effects you will ever see. There is this one scene with a giant space worm that has become legendary in horror circles. The sets look like they raided every sci-fi movie warehouse in Hollywood, and the whole thing feels like a fever dream in space. Inseminoid from 1981. Okay, buckle up for this one because it is absolutely wild. This British sci-fi horror takes place on this distant planet where archaeologists are digging up alien artifacts. But things go completely sideways when one of the crew gets attacked by this alien that, well, let's just say it has some unusual reproduction plans. The whole movie has this incredibly creepy atmosphere with these claustrophobic caves and dark corridors. They filmed it in actual caves in England to save money, and it totally works. The practical effects are super gross, but impressive for the time. Think Alien meets The Thing, but with a much smaller budget and a very British sense of doom. The lead actress gives this incredibly intense performance too. Hey horror fans, quick break. If you are enjoying these deep cuts from the 80s, make sure to hit that subscribe button. What is your favorite setting for a horror movie? Space, underground caves, or abandoned buildings? Let me know in the comments.
Why not? How many worlds are there in the universe?
You have got to hear about Contamination from 1980. This Italian sci-fi horror is like someone watched Alien and said, what if we made it about exploding eggs instead? The story starts when they find this ship full of mysterious green eggs in New York Harbor. Anyone who gets too close to these eggs, boom, they literally explode. The special effects team went wild with the gore, and everything happens in this amazing slow motion that makes it extra gross. We follow these heroes trying to figure out where these eggs came from, and it leads them to this crazy adventure in South America. The music is by this band called Goblin, who did a bunch of horror movies, and it absolutely slaps. The whole thing feels like a wild ride through every B-movie idea they could think of. Let me tell you about Forbidden World from 1982, which some people know as Mutant. This is another Roger Corman production, and it is exactly as bonkers as you would hope. The movie follows this space marshal who goes to this research facility where they have been doing genetic experiments. Big surprise, one of their experiments gets loose and starts turning people into this gross blob monster that keeps growing. The whole thing looks like they spent their entire budget on monster effects and decided to shoot the rest in their basement. But somehow that makes it even better. The creature effects are seriously impressive, and they are not shy about showing them off. Plus, you get these amazing 80s synth tracks playing while people run around in these super shiny space corridors.
Geography out of this state.
Strange and unexplored missing.
The Being from 1983 is everything you want in a creature feature. This Idaho town has been dealing with all this toxic waste, and surprise, something really nasty has mutated in there. The monster looks like someone took every scary thing they could think of and smooshed it all together, but in the best possible way. The movie stars Jackie Coogan, who you might know as Uncle Fester from the Addams Family, and he totally brings it. There are all these great scenes of the creature popping up in the most random places, like a drive-in movie theater showing a horror film. The effects team clearly had a blast making the monster as gross as possible. Every time it shows up, you cannot help but grin at how wonderfully weird it all is. It's time for another engagement check. Drop a like if you are still here and tell me, what is the weirdest monster design you have ever seen in a horror movie? These ones are pretty hard to beat.
Can't walk. I don't believe it.
Walk it! Fight!
Defcon 4 from 1985. This is one of those movies that starts in space but quickly becomes something totally different. We have got these astronauts up in orbit watching World War III break out below them, but that is just the beginning. When they crash land back on Earth, they find this crazy post-apocalyptic world where everything has gone completely bananas. The whole movie has this awesome gritty feel, like Mad Max, but with a nuclear twist. The practical effects team did an amazing job making everything look destroyed on a tiny budget. There are these intense scenes with raiders, radiation zones, and people fighting over the last bits of civilization. The best part is how they mix space technology with this broken down world.
Somewhere in there. Oh, God.
What?
Oh, God. I want to know what you've done with your friend.
You've got to check out Wavelength from 1983. This one stars Robert Carradine as the sound engineer who discovers this super weird frequency coming from a secret research facility. When he investigates with his girlfriend, they find out the government is keeping aliens captive and doing experiments on them. But here is the twist. These aliens are not the bad guys. The movie has this amazing synth score that totally fits the whole Soundwave theme. The effects are pretty simple, but they work so well, especially all the light and sound stuff. It is like E.T. meets the X-Files, but with this awesome 80s electronic music vibe. Every time they use the sound effects, you can feel it in your bones.
Until now.
Just innocent people getting...
Time for Xtreminator from 1984. And trust me, it is exactly as awesome as it sounds. This movie is about this guy who creates this super advanced pest control robot, because regular bug spray just is not enough, right? But of course, the robot decides that humans are the real pests that need to be dealt with. The killer robot looks like they built it from spare parts from Radio Shack, but somehow that makes it even scarier. There are these great scenes where it stalks people through office buildings and warehouses. The whole thing has this amazing low-budget charm, with these creative kills and some surprisingly tense chase scenes. It is like someone took the Terminator and mixed it with a corporate training video in the most entertaining way possible. Hey everyone, quick channel update. If you are loving these obscure horror gems, hit that notification bell. Also, tell me in the comments, What is the weirdest reason you have ever seen for a robot turning evil? I think a malfunctioning pest control bot might take the cake.
Tell me what you did.
And for our final movie, we have got to talk about The Kindred from 1987. This one is about a scientist who discovers his mom was doing some pretty questionable experiments with genetics. He finds out he has got this secret brother, but surprise, it is not exactly the family reunion he was hoping for. The creature effects in this movie are absolutely incredible. They use practical effects and puppetry to create this slimy, tentacled monster that still looks amazing today. The whole thing takes place in this creepy old house full of laboratories, and the atmosphere is perfect. There are some seriously wild transformation scenes that will make you never look at fish tanks the same way again. It is like Frankenstein meets The Thing with a splash of family drama, and that is it, horror fans. 20 amazing forgotten gems from the 1980s that deserve way more love. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, please smash that like button and hit subscribe for more obscure horror content. Let me know in the comments which of these movies you are most excited to check out, or if you have already seen any of them.